Why do you lie like this, Blake? Why? Why do you do this? Do you understand? You are not smarter than the internet. They're both narcissists.
Why would someone go to such extreme lengths to keep a lawsuit alive if they actually had proof? That's the burning question surrounding Blake Lively right now, as her legal battle with Justin Baldoni takes a shocking turn.
Public noticed. Public noticed that things were weird and things began to backfire on you, okay?
What started as a headline-making case is now crumbling in real time, and the internet isn't just skeptical. They're calling it out for what it is. Because when you claim to have solid evidence, but then get caught delivering something completely different, people notice.
They are being so wildly manipulative and dishonest as they have been since the beginning of this entire process.
In this case, not only have they noticed, but they're picking it apart detail by detail, exposing what might be one of the most embarrassing legal maneuvers a celebrity has attempted in recent memory.
The context of that exchange shows that they're out there combating lies.
At first, this lawsuit seemed serious, like something with real weight behind it. But then, in the dead of night, when most people weren't even paying attention, Blake's legal team quietly submitted an amended lawsuit. And that's where things started to unravel, because when people actually took a closer look at this so-called new evidence, it became clear that something was very off.
We found out that Blake Lively's team, according to her attorney, is actually planning to file an amended complaint in their lawsuit against Justin Baldoni and others. According to her attorney, Michael Gottlieb, that is going to include new claims from Blake Lively, and they're going to be bringing this lawsuit against new defendants.
They're just girl bossing it. They're just like, wear your florals. We're going to file an amendment. It's going to be cute. We're going to give you so much emotion. It's going to feel good.
The public began analyzing every word and every claim, and before long, it was obvious that Blake Lively wasn't just stretching the truth. She was presenting something that didn't hold up under scrutiny. And guess who just confirmed it? None other than Candace Owens wasted zero time breaking down the inconsistencies in Blake's case.
Yeah, the public noticed. The public noticed that things were weird and things began to backfire on you, okay?
If you've been following Candace for any amount of time, she doesn't hold back, and when she sinks her teeth into something, the internet follows. Now, social media is in a frenzy, dissecting every move Blake has made, and let's just say, the reactions are not in her favor.
Saying all that the fact that they got this is false, that they engaged in criminal alteration, it's false.
People aren't just questioning her credibility. They're openly calling this entire lawsuit a performance, one that's starting to fall apart faster than she probably anticipated. So, what exactly is happening here? Let's break it down. Originally, Blake filed her lawsuit in Texas. Now, if you're not familiar with legal strategy, that choice alone is interesting. Different states have different court systems, different judges, and different legal precedents, which means that where you file can sometimes be just as important as what you file.
It's the same tactic that they're doing over and over again of trying to manipulate the courts to get what they want. Then filed 2 days ago for an extension. They're like, actually, we're not going to be able to make that amendment date.
But now, out of nowhere, Blake has moved the case to New York. And that's not just some random switch. It's a calculated legal move known as forum shopping. If you've never heard of forum shopping before, here's the simple version. It's what people do when they realize their case isn't as strong as they made it seem. Instead of sticking with their original choice, they jump to a different jurisdiction, hoping for a more favorable outcome.
The reason why she's setting this up is she says, now I have to take steps to protect innocent bystanders rather than exposing them to further harm, because she's now using this to explain away why no one's joining in on her lawsuit, okay? They're setting that up right at the beginning. Essentially, no one's going to join in, but just so you know, this is to protect them.
And this move isn't just raising eyebrows among legal analysts, it's making people wonder. If Blake was so confident in her case, why is she running from courtroom to courtroom like someone trying to escape reality? Because when you have real, undeniable proof, you don't need to chase after a different legal system.
But she removed he doesn't realize how lucky he is right now. We need to press on him how effing lucky. The whispering in the ear, the connotations, the JFC, other members feeling uncomfortable watching it. I mean, there's just so much. Now, you'd think these texts would be very important in her new amended complaint, but she's removed them. They're not in this complaint at all now. And part of the reason is probably because Justin revealed the context of these texts, because they did look more nefarious.
So it's unbelievable. They are being so wildly manipulative and dishonest as they have been since the beginning of this entire process that they are literally mining clips on the internet, taking them out of context so that they can produce a narrative that reads like a script to us.
The facts should be enough to win. That brings us to the next big issue. Where is the actual proof? If Blake really had solid evidence, something that could hold up in court, why all the sneaky legal maneuvers? Why submit it in the middle of the night when most people wouldn't notice? Why shift locations? Because let's be real, when you have actual proof, you don't have to play these kinds of games. You present your evidence, let the facts speak for themselves, and you win. But that's not what's happening here. Instead, we're watching a series of legal gymnastics, where every move raises more questions than answers.
What do you want men to take away from this film?
First of all, I want men to stop asking the question, why do women stay?
Yeah.
Right. I want men to take accountability. I want men to hold other men accountable.
They're just pulling this clip out of obscurity. So what are we to assume that he's speaking about? Well, it turns out he's speaking about his character, Ryle, and they're asking him a question in the context of domestic violence.
Justin's publicists are saying it doesn't even matter if it's not true. And so the context of that exchange shows that they're out there combating lies. She is now making it clear there are other women who felt uncomfortable on the set and that they will testify at trial. Now, that would seem damning, but she doesn't really offer any specifics.
And speaking of raising questions, let's talk about the latest excuse Blake's team is using to explain why no one else is backing her claims. In her amended lawsuit, Blake has suddenly introduced a brand new justification, one that wasn't part of the original case. She's now claiming that she has to protect innocent bystanders from getting dragged into the situation. And at first glance, that might sound noble. But if you take a step back, it starts to look like a convenient way to explain why no one is publicly supporting her.
Now, that would seem damning, but she doesn't really offer any specifics. She doesn't provide any text. She doesn't tell us who these people are. Just says they don't want to get involved right now, given all the toxic virality out there. And so the fact that Blake removed these texts in the new amended complaint, seemingly not wanting to argue that point, is very telling to me. And it's not the only one. There's another text later on. Here it is on page 44 is comparing. These were all removed as well.
Do you understand? You are not smarter than the internet. You didn't protect anybody. You came this close to saying their names because you wanted people to know exactly who you were talking about, okay?
Think about it. If her case was as strong as she initially claimed, wouldn't people naturally want to stand by her? Wouldn't there be at least a few individuals willing to confirm her version of events? Yet, here we are, and that list of supporters is looking suspiciously empty. So instead of acknowledging that others aren't coming forward because they don't believe in the case, she's spinning it as a selfless act of protection. But people are seeing right through it. And let's not forget, this isn't the first time a celebrity lawsuit has taken this kind of dramatic turn. We've seen high-profile cases in the past where legal teams try to reshape the narrative when things aren't going as planned. And more often than not, the more complicated and theatrical the lawsuit becomes, the less likely it is to hold up in court. So, what happens next? At this point, Blake is losing credibility fast. If she thought this last-minute amended lawsuit would save her case, she was sorely mistaken.
Now, she doesn't include the subpoena. We don't know what the subpoena is. That's still the big question, Blake. You haven't provided anything to prove otherwise.
It's the way they use language. It's just so wildly manipulative. 6 in this lawsuit says the dangerous climate of threats, harassment, and intimidation fueled by the defendant's retaliation campaign has required Ms. Lively to alter her personal and professional life.
Instead of strengthening her claims, it's having the opposite effect. People are more skeptical than ever. Legal analysts are questioning her tactics, social media is dragging every inconsistency into the spotlight, and even high-profile figures like Candace Owens are making it clear. They're not buying it. And here's something else to consider.
This has nothing to do with the lawsuit, has nothing to do with anything that Justin Baldoni has ever done. Rather, they decided to go back and find a TEDx talk that Justin Baldoni gave 5 years ago about how he was able to better his relationship with his wife. It goes on and reads, thus, this amended complaint does not refer to certain witnesses by name, nor does it provide screenshots of their text messages. Importantly, however, these witnesses have given Ms. Lively permission to share the substance of their communications.
When a celebrity's public perception shifts this dramatically, it's very hard to recover from. People don't just forget. Once the internet decides that someone has been caught twisting the truth, every move they make afterward is viewed through that lens. And Blake? She's running out of moves.
Let's now move on to point 6 of this, because this is where it gets interesting. Again, it's the way they use language. It's just so wildly manipulative. I don't know how her professional and personal life was altered. It didn't look that way to me when she was posing on the red carpet with her husband and mocking the situation, but let's go with it.
At the end of the day, there's a simple truth here. If you have a strong case, you don't need to hide behind legal maneuvers and late-night filings. You don't need to shift courts hoping for a better outcome. You don't need to suddenly introduce a new narrative about protecting others when people start asking why you're standing alone. Because when you have the truth on your side, it stands on its own. It doesn't need distractions. It doesn't need carefully crafted excuses. And it definitely doesn't need desperate attempts to rewrite the story when things don't go as planned. So, how much longer can Blake keep this up? Because if the past few days have shown us anything, it's that people aren't just sitting on the sidelines. They're digging, they're analyzing, and they're making sure this case doesn't get buried under a pile of legal paperwork. And if Blake thought she could control the narrative, well, she might want to think again.